So the last section for today is we're going to discuss global marketing channels and physical distribution. So basically, if we were to use the marketing mix, this is the last P, the place. So first, a few things on terminology. When we talk about physical distribution, we mean the physical flow of goods through channels. A channel of distribution is an organized network of agencies and institutions that together in combination perform all the activities that need to be performed to link the producer with the consumer and in that sense to accomplish the marketing task. Now, when we the first thing we need to do with regard to our channel strategy is to decide what are our objectives. So, and what is the utility? So marketing in channels in general exists to create utility for customers. And we differentiate here between several different utilities. One is place utility. So basically, this is the availability of a product or service in a location that is convenient to a potential customer. Time utility is the availability of product or services when desired by the customer. Form utility is about the same, but receiving it in the proper conditions or ready to use. And information utility is the availability of answers to general questions and in general the quality of communication about product features and benefits. Distributor is we call a distributor the wholesale intermediary that typically carries product lines or brands on a selective basis. An agent is an intermediary who negotiates transactions between two or more parties, but does not take title to the goods being purchased or sold. So he's just playing a role, helping the process, but is not really a formal part of the process. So these are some possibilities, some alternatives of marketing channel. So here we have M stands for manufacturer, W stands for wholesaler, MSF stands for manufacturer sales force, and R stands for retailer. So we have a number of opportunities. So the manufacturer could directly try to reach the customers, and today that's becoming more possible than ever because of technology, because of internet. So it's possible that we buy directly from the site of the manufacturer, but of course for many goods that's not practical or realistic. So we have all these other options. Probably the most traditional, famous is the one on the right, where the manufacturer uses a wholesaler. So the wholesaler is buying in big quantities and then breaking bulk, which means breaking in small quantities, selling to the retailer. The retailer then is selling to the customers. We have variations on that if the manufacturer is using their own sales force, and that sales force may be working with both wholesalers and retailers, or only with retailers, or only with wholesalers. All the combinations are possible. And in some cases, we have agents or brokers who are being the link between the intermediary, between the manufacturer and the retailer. Okay. Due to technology in the last years, we have some more novel opportunities developing. One is peer-to-peer marketing. So peer-to-peer marketing is for example, good example is eBay, where eBay allows the seller and the buyer to directly interact. Also, Netflix is a good example. So Netflix directly, like in the old system, we would have to have, like for example, a movie distributor, when somebody who's locally distributing, when we go to the cinema, right, to see a movie. Today, they're directly interacting peer-to-peer with the consumer. Door-to-door selling is something that was very popular in the past. So a sales agent will knock on your door and offer you something. But what's interesting is in some markets, it's continuing to develop a lot, with some companies choosing it specifically as their sales, as their way of distribution. Usually it's done when we think that the personal moment, the personal connection would be beneficial to making the sale. And it really allows products like Tupperware or Avon and many others to really use that as a differentiation strategy, because they use basically regular women, they're not retailers, they're not specifically salespeople, but regular women who sell to their network of contacts. As far as consumer channels, we have a few here things to differentiate. One is manufacturer-owned stores. So this is when the company itself owns and operates its retail stores. So we also called flagship stores. We could have independent franchise, independent retailers, and flagship retail stores. Like this is typical, for example, for Apple or Sony or Nike to build such stores, which are really part of a strategy of enhancing brand loyalty, enhancing brand experience, basically our experience with the brand. In developing countries, when a big company coming from a Western market, from a developed market goes into a developing country, there's a number of things they need to take into consideration, because the consumer habits might be completely different in that market. So very often, for example, we're giving example here with Mexico, where 70% of Mexicans shop at the so-called mom and pop stores, which are small stores, small size, but conveniently located in many neighborhoods close to each other, which is very different from the way customers in developed markets are used to going to bigger stores, doing purchases more in bigger quantities, kind of for a longer period of time. Nestle, it's an interesting example. They have a floating supermarket that sails the Amazon River to reach remote areas of people living around the river. It's very, for example, different. Now, if we're talking about distribution of industrial products, the channels are more limited. We usually use either direct sales through the internet. We develop our own sales force who directly works with customers or with wholesalers, or directly we do it with wholesalers or through an agent. So all these options are possible, but mainly here the retailer is cut, because there's no, the retailer in general is the consumer, the direct to the consumer sale, which we don't have here. When we are establishing channels, as we already said, we could do it from our own sales force. We can utilize independent other third parties, and our channel strategy would really depend on all channel strategy, how we want to be positioned, and what are marketing objectives within each market. Now, when we work with channel intermediaries, we need to be really careful, because who we work with has a direct impact on the quality that we're able to provide, and on the reliability. I mean, dealing with the wrong distributor can totally, for example, ruin our brand. So we need to look at for distributors as long-term partners, not just temporary, somebody who is helping us temporary, but really long-term partners. And we need to look at distributors who have the potential to really develop. So we shouldn't look just capability at the moment, but think of our strategy. So what is our long-term strategy for this market, and can this brand grow together with us? We need also, we shouldn't just dump things on a distributor. We need to support them by committing resources and remain responsible and in control of the overall marketing strategy. Make sure we also get detailed information from the market. And ideally, we also build good links with national distributors as early as possible. When we choose intermediaries, we need to be realistic about what the motives are. And we need to really, I mean, they may be, in many cases, they're just looking to maximize their profit rather than think for our own interests. So we need to be looking at people with whom we can establish more partnership relationship, where they have a commitment also to our success and not just to their own. In some cases, it's not easy to find a good intermediary, so we may be forced to do it by ourselves. Now, when we talk about global retailing, a lot of things have changed in the last years. We have now a lot of malls have become kind of a big part of the landscape of any urban city. But we also have all these other categories: supermarkets, department stores, hypermarkets, outlet stores. So these are all elements of global retailing today. And we really need to understand what target groups are they servicing and where is the right place for our products. Not everything works for every brand. Now, as far as global retailing, here we're making a historical introduction that the first moment when it started was actually when European companies start selling to, basically distributing products to colonies in the 19th century and early 20th century. Today, global retailers they provide products in developing nations with basically as a result of globalization, as a result of the many multinational brands we have, which have presence in many countries. Developing nations have, both developed and developing nations have access to better products, bigger variety at lower price. We also, when we talk about developing countries, we need to be aware that these markets are only partially developed as far as retailing. For example, we're giving example here that only 5% of Indians' total market is organized retail as far as modern branded chain stores. This is an incredible opportunity for development. So many retailers see this as an opportunity because India is a huge market, so we expect to see much bigger growth. Hence, a lot more opportunities in the future. Here you have the top 5 global retailers. So we're headed by Walmart, Carrefour, Tesco, Metro, and Aldi. A few more words on retailers, types of retailers. So department stores are one of the kind of well-known types, but they are not so easy to move globally. They develop more on a national base. And so basically, department stores are big stores which are under one operator, and they offer many different brands, but are not like malls. In a mall, each shop is rented to an individual company, while in the department store, one retailer is selling many different brands. We also have specialty retailers, so they are similar to department store, but they have less variety. So usually focus on certain market segments, like, for example, the Body Shop or Victoria's Secret. Then we have supermarkets. So you all know, I think, what a supermarket is. They usually big stores, again, between 50 and 60,000 square feet. Convenience stores is something which is focused on stores which are focused on high turnover, convenience, and impulse goods. Usually prices are higher than grocery stores, and they tend to be located at malls, airports, office buildings, and college and universities. So basically, they're counting that people will not have time to go to the supermarket or another place where prices are cheaper. So they would be, that's why it's called convenience store, because they would be willing to pay a little higher prices, but have direct the ability to buy at the spot they need, they're currently at. Discount retailers, they could be, there's a number of different formats here. The main focus there is on selling goods at discounted prices. So we have here variations with from full line discounters to hard discounters, which hard discounters would be places where really limited assortment. So their focus is not on assortment. Their focus is on providing rock bottom prices. So like really final discount. We also have hypermarkets. So basically they combine a supermarket together with additional goods. Super centers, superstores, and big box. So for example, those would be like Toys R Us, Home Depot, IKEA. So these are big, it's called big box because they usually are outside of the city center where there's a lot of cheap land, and they usually kind of have this industrial warehouse look. Again, this is made to save costs, but at the same time provides huge amount of goods, concentration of goods at one place. Shopping malls, we already mentioned. So what's important for shopping malls, they're developed as a kind of a full service as far as not just shopping but entertainment as well. So this provides an opportunities for the entertainment, food, and shopping to be combined in a full experience. So that's why they become these life centers, attracting bigger number of customers. Very popular lately are the so-called outlet stores. So basically, outlet stores are shops that offer, they could be branded, but they offer, for example, luxurious brands sometimes offer their last year's unsold items. So it's not the most trendy, it's not the most fashionable, but They attract customers who are not so concerned with that, but they like the quality of the brands and the opportunity to get that at cheaper price. Now, a couple of words here on global retailing trends. So more and more brands are looking for global exposure, and there's a few reasons for that. One could be the saturations in the market saturation in the home country market. So maybe they reach a point beyond which they cannot grow. There could be also a recession in the local economy or some other economic factors that make it difficult for them to find further growth or at all to survive sometimes. In some countries, there could be strict regulations on store development. So again, they could be moving away from that, looking for opportunities in new markets. It could be also that they're experiencing very high operating costs locally, and they want opportunities in other markets addressing that. So the critical question is, what advantages do we have relative to the local competition? This is the environmental factors that we just discussed, which are forcing us to look for opportunities outside of the market. This is one. This is the starting point. But when we're deciding where do we go, we need to see how are we different, what are our advantages versus local competition. And if we cannot answer that question, we don't have kind of chance on the local market. So we have here another matrix which is helping us to understand the global retailing categories. So depending on two main factors, do we focus on our own label or do we focus on manufacturer brands? So this is one of the axes. And the other one is, do we have few categories or many categories? So depending on that, here we have some examples of companies. For example, in the own label focus and fewer categories, we have companies like IKEA, Benetton, Gap, L'Occitane. While in the bottom down corner, we have companies like Amazon, Walmart, Primark, Carrefour. So those companies now in the D category, they focus on manufacturer brands. So for example, Amazon mainly sells products of other brands, although they have increased the number of Amazon brands as well. But it's relatively still small compared to the number of manufacturer brands they sell, which is completely opposite to IKEA. IKEA only sells brands, so they're manufactured in different places around the world, but they're sold under the IKEA brand. And many categories. So on Amazon, you can, and in Walmart, you can find huge number of product categories, while in IKEA you would find specifically furniture and a few furniture accessories. Another framework we could look is how easy and how, so this is specifically with regard to our entry strategy. So we would look how difficult it is to enter the market or how easy it is to enter it. What are the different barriers to entry? And then how culturally close or culturally distant is the market? Again, this informs differences in our strategy. So when the market is easy to enter and it's culturally close to us, then this is what we call more organic way of doing things. When it's easy to enter but culturally distant, we could use a franchise. And when it's culturally distant and difficult to enter, we would go into an arrangement such as the ones we discussed, like a joint venture or licensing. If it's difficult to enter but easy to, but culturally close, we can consider chain acquisition. So you see here, the strategies will be completely different, and choosing the right strategy could be the difference between succeeding in a new market and failing. When we are considering our global retailing strategy, so we consider organic growth. Organic growth is when we gradually continue to expand using our own resources. And inorganic will be if we do it through acquisition of other companies. So this would be inorganic growth. Franchise also falls under that category. And as we said, this is the appropriate strategies when barriers to entry are low, yet the market is culturally distant. So why is that important? Because under the franchisor-franchisee relationships, we don't need to worry about the operations in the new country. This is something the franchisee would take care of. So that's why this is a good strategy if the culture is different. Then we said also chain acquisition in joint venture. So chain acquisition, we said, is when the strategy, so chain acquisition will be our strategy when we buy a company which has existing outlets in a foreign country. So for example, some supermarkets grow like that. So they look at the new market and they can decide an existing retail chain which already has its customer base, it has its locations, and then once they acquire it, we could further expand and develop it. And joint venture, we already spoke about that. Okay, a few more definitions here that are important to be known when we are dealing with global marketing, specifically marketing channel. So supply chain is something we need to know. This includes all the firms that perform support activities by generating raw materials, converting them into components or finished products, and making them available to customers. And logistics are all the management processes that integrate, the process that integrates all the activities of all companies to ensure an efficient flow of goods through the supply chain. Now the next aspect is physical distribution, supply chains, and logistics management. So first term here is order processing. So order includes order entry, in which the order is actually entered into a company's information system. Order handling, which involves locating, assembling, and moving products into distribution and order delivery. And warehousing. Warehouses are used to store goods until they're sold. And distribution centers are designed to effectively receive goods from suppliers and then fill orders for individual stores of customers. Inventory management, another term important, is through the inventory management, we're ensuring that the company neither runs out of manufacturing components or finished goods, nor incurs the expense and risk of carrying excessive stock of these items. So in one case, we don't want to have too little so that somehow we're not efficiently running, or if we have too much, it means we're not properly using our capital, so we're tying too much money in inventory. Transportation On the other side is the method or mode that companies should utilize when moving products from one location to another through both domestic and global channels. And here we all know this is common knowledge that we can use all kinds of different transportation, so rail, truck, air, and water. However, what's important is when we're considering new markets, we cannot assume that all these are available or all of them are functioning exactly to the way we need them. This is an example of a supply chain, value chain, and logistic for IKEA in this case. So we have the raw materials. They're part of the supply chain. So through inbound logistics, they're brought to the factories. So this is from the primary sector. We're brought into the factory, which is part of the secondary sector. And then through outbound logistics, they're distributed through the IKEA stores to the consumer. So this is where the channel of distribution is, while the supply chain is the whole graph. The final here, this graph is about transportation. So here we're comparing major international transportation modes. As we mentioned, so we have rail, water, truck, air, pipeline, and internet also today. And we can compare them based on reliability, cost, speed, accessibility, capability, and ease of tracing. So obviously, in order to choose the right one, we really need to understand how we're creating competitive advantage, what is important for a total overall cost. And then we can decide what is more important for us. Is it cost or is it speed, for example? Okay, so this was the last slide for today, and I'm going to move to our last case also for today, which is about fast fashion. Has anybody read the case? No? Okay, so you haven't read it, but you're probably, like most of everybody in the world, you're using its products. So fast fashion in general, apologize, just 1 second. Okay. I apologize, but had some tech interruption here. Okay, so as far as the fast fashion, this is a relatively new phenomenon from the last years, where companies such as Zara, which is a company of Spanish company out of the Inditex group, as well as a company like H&M, which is from Sweden. Uniqlo is also the flagship brand of Japan. So these 3 brands are actually what we call the flagships of fast retailing. So these are companies that we got used to seeing in most big urban centers now in the world. And what the reason they became so attractive, that they have been able to provide goods at low prices. At the same time, they have been attractive with the speed at which inventories are replenished and updated with affordable version of the latest runway trends from the world fashion capital. So that's why we call it fast fashion, because never before in the world we had such a short journey between kind of the places where fashion starts, the fashion capitals of the world, and in the, stores across the whole world accessible to mass consumers. So the fact that good clothes were available at such low cost created a consumer mindset that clothing purchases are disposable rather than long-term investment. So if you go 100 years ago, people would buy certain clothes with the idea that they're going to use it for quite a long time. Today, sometimes we wear things once or twice and we throw them away. So this has created a lot of challenges in the world. But before I go into that, it's interesting to see specifically the example of Zara. I specifically wanted to give you the details. So what's interesting for Zara's case is they produced most of their products in Spain or close to Spain. They didn't follow the trend of moving all their production in, for example, China and other places like that. But what they did is they automated fully their production, and they are known for the fact that they can, for less than a month, from the moment they see a new trend on some fashion show, for example, it takes them less than a month. For example, if some new color is being introduced, for less than a month, they have designed, manufactured, and distributed across the world this new fashion. So this is pretty amazing, and it's possible only because of the high level of automation they use. They have fully robotized many of their processes, which is very different from what H&M did. So H&M is is producing their collections in Asian markets, I think, and they have. So if Zara is able, through this process which they developed, they're able for they actually change their stores products every 2 weeks, and they circulate. So if some products are not selling in one location, they would send them to another one. So basically every 2 weeks they have new collection in their stores. H&M changes them much more rarely because they're not as flexible as Zara. They need to plan their collections, order them to a third party, get them back, and then distribute them. So one of the problems, let's see the questions we have here. I need to go to the rest of the I want to go to the question. So the big question we're facing today is fast fashion sustainable? And there's a number of issues here. First, there's huge amounts of clothes we throw. So this is showing you clothes that are being transported in India. So two issues here. First, overproduction, a lot more is produced than is being sold. And second, people are using it just a few times and throwing it. So this creates a huge problem with regard to recycling, with regard to basically waste and damage to the environment. Also, there are questions related to the technological revolution, like the robotics revolution, which is happening right now. So if fast fashion is mainly possible due to availability of low cost labor in developing countries. We're seeing the example of Zara, and we're probably going to see a lot more of that in the next years, where low-cost labor is being exchanged with robots. So this will place a huge question, not only on, again, kind of availability and the availability of cheap fashion and what do we do with excess production, but it will also be a huge, huge problem in countries which have become dependent on production of fast fashion. So we're giving, in this case, example with Bangladesh. We're saying something like an estimated 1 billion Bangladeshis join the workforce every month. And a huge percent of these people work in fast fashion industry. So with the introduction of automation, some of the companies that are, for example, now producing in Bangladesh may find it more suitable to stay in their home countries or somewhere closer to where there's more capital as well as more access to tech. So the people working in labor-intensive production, which has been the case with fast fashion, to capital-extensive production, which is the case with we see with Zara. The requirements for where we place factories are different. So in one case, we place them in low-cost countries. In the other case, we would place them in countries where we have access to people with high qualifications, as far as technology, engineering, design, things like that. So the questions here which were being asked is, on one side, what is so appealing about fast fashion trends? And also, can really the fashion industry create sustainable supply chains? Can it really deal somehow with the incredible amount of clothing items that are being thrown out and barely used? So what do you think? What is your opinion? Why is fast fashion so appealing? Okay. So I think we're all using fast fashion, so we all should be able to answer that question. But obviously, it's the combination of fashion, low price, easy availability, variety. So with the growing levels of income in most countries, clothes have now become very easily disposable item, and we appreciate the possibility to buy cheaper clothes and throw them out if we don't need them. But more and more, we need to start considering also how that impacts the environment. And definitely, fast food actually have also similar, not the same, but let's say they also have issues related to remaining sustainable, with more and more people being environmentally concerned, with more and more people realizing the problem we're facing globally with regard to waste, with regard to damaging the environment, and all other environmental issues. We would have to rethink fast fashion as well. It cannot continue the way it is. Okay, so with this, we're finishing for today.